As you know by now, the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 did pass, and there were implications immediately and new implications that start at the beginning of the year. As you know, at this point, a lot of cars that have been qualifying and did not meet any caps are no longer going to qualify and no longer do qualify. Well, that doesn't set easy with a lot of these big auto manufacturers who are making large investments by setting up production facilities here in North America. So rather than giving credits for all cars regardless of where they're made, it is putting a focus on North America and here in the United States, production facilities for batteries and for electric cars. Now, of course, that hasn't gone well with everybody, and Hyundai specifically has been outspoken about this. They are making an incredibly large investment here in North America to set up a new facility to make their future electric cars here in North America. In Georgia, there's a very large plant in the works for Hyundai specifically, and Hyundai is not alone. All the other manufacturers are obviously not pleased that they no longer qualify for these tax credits. It gives them a disadvantage, a very large disadvantage when it comes to competing for American dollars. On the bright side, this change did remove those 200,000 vehicle caps, so companies like General Motors and Tesla will now qualify for some tax credits starting in 2023. With all of that, there has been a lot of money that has been poured into getting attention to this issue and getting potential changes to the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. And just this week, we got our first draft of a new bill that would make some amendments to those tax credits as they relate to EVs. And this is going to be some good news for a lot of people. It's actually going to be more good news than bad news, assuming something like this can happen. Now, traditionally, I would say the chances of something like this happening are very minimal. However, because of the size of the automotive industry and how big and important it is, and the names of the companies that are most impacted by this, there's probably a decent chance that this could happen and these changes could come into effect. So I spent a lot of time reading the actual bill, not just articles, the actual bill, to understand very clearly what this means for the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. So first, I'm going to go very quickly over the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. This is the bill as it sits right now and how this will impact cars as it sits, no changes. But first, before we dive into that, I want to give a special shout out to today's video sponsor, Drive Protected Shop. Drive Protected is the #1 trusted source for DIY PPF. They have an entire library of how-to videos on their Drive Protected YouTube channel to ensure you have a successful install. Of course, with DIY PPF, you stand to save thousands of dollars with Defense Plus PPF by Drive Protected. So whether you drive a Tesla or any other vehicle, be sure to use code BTG to save 20% on your order. This is a 10-year bill and it starts after December 31st of 2022. It is not retroactive, meaning these changes do not have an impact retroactively. So if you have a Tesla on order and you take delivery this year, you're not going to get a tax credit. The credit is up to $7,500, which is broken out into two ways. $3,750 if 50% of the battery components are made in North America by 2024, and then 10% each year thereafter, all the way up to 100% by 2029. The other $3,750 comes from 40% of the battery minerals being from a free trade agreement partner with the United States or in North America by 2023, and then an additional 10% per year, all the way up to 80% by 2027. The MSRP caps of $80,000 for vans, SUVs, trucks, and $55,000 for others. And of course, the income caps, $150,000 for individuals and $300,000 for joint filers. That is your adjusted gross income. There is, of course, this new used EV tax credits of $4,000 or 30% of the cost, whichever is less. The car must be 2 years old or older and cannot exceed a $25,000 price tag, and it has to be bought from a dealer, cannot be bought from a private party. The used EV income limits are $75,000 for individuals and $150,000 for joint filers. And now a correction to what I have reported previously. This is not a refundable credit. I repeat, this is not a refundable credit. That means you must have tax liability up to $7,500 to get up to $7,500. So if your car only qualifies for $3,750 in credits, you must have at least $3,750 in tax liability to be able to take all that money. If you only have $1,000 in tax liability, you're only going to get a $1,000 credit. Really quick though, if this video is helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. That is the bill that was passed, and here's the look at the cars that qualify based on what we know today. This means they will qualify for some credits, not necessarily all $7,500. Until manufacturers start to publish all their information about where they're sourcing their battery critical minerals and how all that is set up, we're not going to know for sure exactly how much of the credit each of these vehicles is going to get. Now, for the changes that are being proposed in Congress, here's what we're looking at, and this is going to be a good thing for a lot of people that are not necessarily just looking for a Tesla or just looking for a Chevy Bolt as an example. The first change is looking at foreign entity of concern. So countries that are listed as foreign entity of concern cannot be used for sourcing critical minerals that go into these batteries. What they're looking at doing is changing this from December 31st, 2024 to after December 31st, 2025. That is for the minerals. And for the battery components, moving that from after December 31st, 23 to after December 31st, 2024. So basically giving manufacturers an extra year to source their battery components and minerals from non-entity of concern countries. In addition, with the critical minerals, there's been a request to delay those requirements for 3 years. So basically 40% starting before January 1st of 2024 would move to calendar year 2026. That's a 3-year delay. And then that additional 10% per year would continue. It would just be 3 years later than originally proposed. Rather than starting in 2023, this is now going to start in calendar year 2026, going up 10% per year. The battery component requirement is also being requested as a change for another 3-year delay. Instead of starting before January 1st of 2024, again asking for calendar year 2026 to be the start of that 50% battery component requirement. So that would delay this 3 years and basically mean that we can get batteries from anywhere up until 2026. So what this basically means is companies like Hyundai, who once this bill was signed, no longer qualified for credits, they're still not going to qualify for credits until their manufacturing facility is up and running in Georgia. So this would allow them the time to build that facility and start making electric cars out of that facility, delivering to customers before rules would go into place that prevent them from getting tax credits. So if this does go into effect, basically all manufacturers, Audi, Toyota, Hyundai, you name it, they have an opportunity for 3 years essentially to set up production here in the United States or North America to be able to deliver these cars and qualify for those tax credits. If that does not happen, they're basically 3 years behind. So it's going to take a few years to build a facility and ship to customers from that facility at volume for any of these companies to be able to pivot and be able to make these cars qualifying for these tax credits. In addition, the critical mineral component is a big piece of this. Right now, there are limited sources of these critical minerals, and being able to change entire supply chains globally will take some time. So this addresses that by giving additional time for these rules to go into place, not asking for them to go away, just asking for the time to be able to adjust for all of this and not lose out on the credits while other manufacturers are able to start taking advantage starting at the beginning of the year. So as we continue to monitor this, of course, we'll keep you updated here, and make sure you're subscribed so that way when we do get some additional updates on this, you'll know first. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, of course, give it the thumbs up. If you haven't already, of course, subscribe to the channel as we continue to post content regularly. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Bearded Tesla. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.